Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are having a technical issue. Don't know what it is. Well, we could not hear Lynette at all, so I'm going to have to jump in here and start off with our order of service. I want to welcome everyone here this morning that's here in the sanctuary. See all of your wonderful, lovely, smiling faces. And thank you to Gilbert for the beautiful interlude before the service. This monthly theme is Playing with Paradox, and the weekly topic is the Paradox Mindset. Well, before we get into that, let me do the invocation. So if you would, just put your feet flat on the floor. Relax. Infinite Spirit, in whom we live, move, and have our being, we acknowledge the presence and power of God. We acknowledge that God is everywhere at the same time. God is here in this service. God is with each and every person that's in this service, working through all technical difficulties. I know we'll get that worked out sooner or later. God is blessing us, and we are blessed. I know that Lynette is blessed, Reverend Teresa is blessed, our usher is blessed for the day, and the folks that fix our food are blessed, as is our Zoom technician and myself. We are blessed. We just give thanks for this time that we have today, and we open with anticipation of this service. And if you're in agreement with me, please say with me, and so it is. Amen and amen and amen. Welcome to this house of God. Welcome to everyone. Monthly theme summary. Builders of greatness are comfortable with paradox. They don't oppress themselves with the tyranny of the or, which pushes people to believe that things must be either A or B, but not both. Instead, they liberate themselves with the genius of the and. Jim Collins, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. This month, we are expanding our ability to live out loud in every area of life through a playful exploration of paradox. Paradoxes are a natural part of life. The more that we can embrace this truth, the more we can find solutions to the major problems we are facing in our individual lives, our communities, and the world. We will explore what it means to use Janusian thinking and develop a paradox mindset, how to use our curiosity and vulnerability to get comfortable outside of our comfort zone, and find that the opposite of an absolute truth is not a falsehood, but rather another absolute truth. Once we have deepened our own ability to play in the paradox, we will apply this thinking to the paradoxes that inform and direct our lives in the world. And we will lean into using paradox to bring relevance to the idea of creating a world that works for everyone as we play with paradox out loud. Affirmation. I embrace a paradox mindset in everything I do. Science of Mind point of view. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes reminds us to remain open at the top. One of the ways in which we can do this is through embracing and developing a paradox mindset. Paradox thinking is a natural part of Science of Mind teaching. We believe in oneness even while there is suffering and struggle in the world. We believe that the infinite and the finite are one and the same, and that our mind is an individualized expression of the one mind. Boy, that is a mouthful, wasn't it? All of these beliefs require a paradoxical mindset, the ability to hold two seemingly contradictory ideas at the same time. A paradox mindset is a key as we deepen our spiritual understanding of the world. We now have a song, if you would load up, I Am Already Enough. And it's an official music video by Fearless Soul. And followed by that, Reverend Teresa Slusher will come on to talk about the paradox mindset.
All right. I think I am unmuted. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good. That's a relief. Okay, let's breathe. It's funny. Well, not really funny, but I am glad to be heard. I'm glad to be here. And today we're going to talk about the paradox mindset. And we're going to explore what a paradox is and how we can develop a paradox mindset to achieve a greater good for ourselves, our loved ones, and of course, all of humanity. So let's just start by asking, what is a paradox? Well, the word paradox comes from the Greek para, meaning contrary to, and doxa, meaning opinion. So contrary opinions. The Latin term paradoxum means seemingly absurd, but really true. And then Brene Brown, she defines paradox. She, in her book called Atlas of the Heart, she defines paradox as the appearance of contradiction between two related components. And we find paradoxes everywhere in our world, like light and dark are seeming opposites, yet one cannot exist without the other. And you have to spend money to make money. I know we've all heard that. And if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. Less is more. And what really strikes me is we've got jumbo shrimp. You know, you can order jumbo shrimp. Shrimps are tiny, jumbo shrimp. And of course, when we look at God, as in Science of Mind, we know God is consciousness. And yet God is also matter simultaneously. And I'm kind of laughing because when we look at paradoxes, and Lynette was having a hard time being heard, we saw her lips moving. And in Romeo and Juliet, Romeo says she speaks, yet she says nothing. So I found that kind of amusing, because knowing that I researched a little bit about paradoxes, and I found that on Romeo and Juliet. And then here we have the paradox that's speaking, and then we don't hear anything. And then we've got the irresistible force paradox. Think about paradox like this. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? What happens? And then we've got something called the hedgehog paradox. See, we go through life and everybody coins their paradoxes with different names. So the hedgehog paradox, really, it's a metaphor about the challenges of human intimacy. So let's just imagine a group of hedgehogs that seek to move close to one another to share heat during cold weather. Well, they must remain apart because if they did snuggle up, they would hurt each other with their sharp spines. So though they all share the intention of a close reciprocal relationship, this may not occur for reasons that they can't avoid, those sharp spines. But let us consider this. When our ancestors were moving around on the earth as hunters and gatherers, they had to be quick on their feet and in their thinking. They had to determine if the movement they saw out of the corner of their eyes was either the wind blowing or a beast ready to attack them and perhaps devour them. See, back then, the human mind was designed for either or thinking. And this thinking was assuredly useful for our ancestors because it meant survival. Well, now, however, today, both and thinking is necessary when we need to consider the challenges we face in our society, especially in business and our world today. So a shift from thinking in black and white, linear and binary terms like right and wrong are not so much needed in our workforce and our lifestyles. Both and thinking helps us to thrive in a changing world. Hence, we must learn to develop what we call the paradox mindset. So what exactly is the paradox mindset? And we can say that the paradox mindset is the ability to hold and consider two seemingly opposed ideas at the same time. So this ability helps us to navigate into higher modes of thinking through situations, ideas, and discoveries. Instead of focusing on problems, we discover solutions. We might want to look at all sides of a situation and come up with new perspectives, new ideas, where we become more innovative, ingenious, and inventive. Well, a couple of builders of greatness that we're all familiar with and have been some of the great minds of our century, they used paradox thinking. One great mind we know as Albert Einstein. He contemplated how an object could be both at rest and moving, all of which was, he discovered, was dependent on the position of the observer. So spending his time in contemplation on this ultimately led to his relativity theory. And then there's that Danish physicist known as Niels Bohr. He tried to reconcile the ways that energy acted like both waves and particles. Both states existed simultaneously, even though they could not be observed together. Now, his train of thought ultimately inspired a startling new understanding of quantum physics. While we tend to believe that being pulled in opposite directions will cause stress, studies have actually shown that when we can embrace this tension and step into that paradoxical thinking mindset, people are more creative. They are more flexible and hence more productive. Living our science of mind teaching actually requires a paradox mindset. As we are consistently pulled in the two seemingly opposite directions of our own perceptions, that of seeing all as oneness, while at the same time we see separateness. We are confronted with the suffering and what we call the brokenness of the world. So a paradox mindset allows us the freedom to simultaneously hold both of these ideas in our minds without a need to solve a problem. In fact, by embracing the paradox, we can realize that there is no problem to solve at all, but just a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at things. So consider this. We are on an evolutionary journey called living. Life is the constant. It's all around us. We see it in the trees, the grasses. It is the continuation of movement, yet it is stillness. Our living experience is an evolutionary journey. We are always changing and shifting. And when we change the way we see our living conditions and situations, when we make changes, the things and people around us change. What worked for us in the past may not be the solution for our present. And the great paradox about life is actually found in the Bible, where Jesus tells us that the only way that you can really find your life is to be willing to lose your life. This statement is the ultimate paradox of a meaningful living life. And so we go through living our life thinking we don't measure up, or we are not good enough, or that we don't matter. But this is the paradox of you. You must lose yourself to find yourself. Let go of your ideas of who you think you are and learn who you truly are. A wonderful, miraculous, divine created being, a divine child of the highest. What if you can embrace all of you, though? You know, the wholeness of you, and know that you are all that and then some? What if you can embrace and love yourself just the way you are, and yet yearn for improvement and personal growth? Yearn for that greatness that you already are, and become a better singer, performer, athlete, mother, father, friend. It's true. We have an inner desire. We have an inner desire to express life, to live life. We have the desire to accomplish more, to be more happy, completely happy, prosperous, and healthy. Our inner desire is that strong feeling to have something, do something, be somebody, no matter what. Our feelings, our desires are part of that eternally progressive spirit of unfoldment. And to bring them into something that matters. From our desires, that which we don't see but we feel, into matter, that which takes form, the ultimate experience. So we must learn to surrender to our ideas, not to avoid them. If we desire to be happy, we must get out of the way and surrender our entire living to the working of the great intelligence. The intelligence that knows how to manifest our desires. We must have the conviction that this intelligence will use us as a perfect channel. And actually, it is here where we are happy, when we're living our truest desires, where we are in union with that Most High. Let life act through us and as us, as the living entities that we are. We have the freedom to be, do, and have as we choose. So the paradox of life is the either or, and it is also both and more. Either we live life to our fullest and be happy, or we don't live to our fullest and be both miserable and sometimes happy at the same time. Know this, we already measure up, even when we don't think we do. Surrender to that divine intelligence that is always moving right through you as you. Well, how do we do this, you might ask? Well, we must lose ourselves in order to find ourselves. Lose oneself to find oneself seems contrary, and it is. Yet you can learn to embrace all of you, all the contradictory ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and perspectives of you and of your world, and even our shared reality. What if we don't have to pick sides of either or, but we can choose both and? If we did this, we would be tapped into a paradox mindset. The most mysterious, puzzling or difficult thing to figure out is life. This puzzle actually attracts truth seekers all the way from monks and hermits to explorers and scientists, those of us who desire to understand and make sense of it all. Let us just simply call this mystery the enigma of life. The mysterious power of this enigma is the most potent attraction to find the meaning of life. Paradoxical dimensions of life inspire in us imagination, and it also arouses in us an exclamation of wonder. And we have a reading by our reader today by the name of Jerry Lawson.
Good morning again. This is a story written by Reverend Teresa Slusher. It says, Professor Lawson on Paradoxes. In the heart of a quiet little village, nestled between ancient oak trees and blooming gardens, there lived a renowned philosopher named Professor Lawson. I think I might know him. He was a devoted student of the science of mind, a seeker of truth and wisdom. One day during an intellectual gathering at the local community center, the topic of paradox seized the conversation. The air was alive with curiosity and anticipation, as minds yearned to unravel the mysteries of the universe and the enigma of opposing views, like less is more, or if I know one thing, it's that I know nothing. How can opposing ideas contradict, yet coexist and make sense? Professor Lawson, being well versed in the ways of paradoxes and the science of mind, was invited to share his insights. He stood before the eager audience's eyes, gently gazing into the group of eager participants who were sitting poised to hear his message. He began with a tale. Not too far away, yet in the realm beyond our comprehension, there existed a dimension where opposites danced in eternal harmony, the professor began. It was a place where light and darkness came together and coalesced into a mesmerizing ballet, an interplay that formed the very fabric of their existence. In this paradoxical realm, a being named Enigma resided. Enigma was neither wholly light nor entirely darkness. Instead, Enigma was the embodiment of both contradictions that coexist, a beautiful and exquisite blend. Throughout the town, the residents of this realm marveled at Enigma's ability to balance the extremes, and all the residents yearned to embrace the contradiction within themselves. They sought counsel from this being, learning the profound art of coexistence and acceptance. As Professor Lawson delved deeper into this story, he interwove metaphysical concepts and the tenets of the science of mind, as he was excited to share how much he relished in the wisdom of the great teacher, Ernest Holmes. He shared one of Ernest Holmes' quotes, quote, "The riddle of the universe is a paradox. The question is its own answer, for the mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers it." End quote. And then he illustrated how embracing life's paradoxes allowed for growth, understanding, and transcendence of limiting benefits. The gathering was enhanced by the tale, and they realized the wisdom hidden within the paradox. The paradox was not a knot to be unraveled, but a mystery to be celebrated. And in that room filled with eager minds and open hearts, the seed of enlightenment was sown. Each person was left with a newfound understanding, a realization that embracing the paradox of existence, they could truly achieve harmony within themselves and with the world around them. Professor Lawson's storytelling had inspired and motivated them, sparking a journey towards their own greatness, born from the depths of understanding paradox through the lens of science of mind. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Jerry. So, how do we develop a paradox mindset? And when we haven't really been thinking anything other than black and white, right or wrong, how do we develop a paradox mindset? Well, we might want to learn about Janessian thinking and put it into practice. So what is this Janessian thinking? Well, there was a psychiatrist by the name of Albert Rosenberg who coined the term Janessian thinking to describe paradox mindset. He named it as such after the god Janus in Roman mythology. Now, this mythological god is known as the god of doors, gates, transitions, and he's depicted with two heads that are back to back, where the faces are looking in opposite directions. Looking in both and opposite directions. And when you see the two faces looking in opposite directions, this represents the middle ground between both concrete and abstract. Dualities such as life and death, beginning and end, youth and adulthood, rural and urban, war, peace, barbarianism, and civilization. So if we were to take a look at looking at both sides, and we can begin to start putting this into a practical application. And I'm going to share with you a story that demonstrates such thinking. So it was back in the 1970s, way back, when Southwest Airlines was founded with a revolutionary idea. Rather than having assigned seating with class fare structures, it was designed as first come, first serve. Those who were in line first got to choose their seat first. And this was developed by founder Herb Kelleher. He developed this, what they call an egalitarian operating philosophy, and chose to continue to put his values and passion first when conventional wisdom suggested that maybe he could make more money utilizing the current widely accepted model that the airline industry had been using. But you know, he would say conventional wisdom put a hell of a lot of airlines out of business. So he was willing to open up and take a look at just not bringing in more revenue, but getting people on the planes quicker. And if he could get people on the planes quicker, that would probably generate more revenue. It was until Southwest came along, it was common thinking that boarding according to where your seat was located was the fastest available process. But studies started to show that open seating saved up to 4 minutes off the boarding process, which actually lowered cost and made it more effective and actually even more accessible for anyone to travel. So that increased traveling with lower prices. You had lower fares, and more people could travel. But it took until 2007 for the airline to perfect the boarding process that we see today, with the people who check in the earliest getting the earliest boarding spots. Now, his system is quite a wonderful example of living the paradox mindset. He believed that equality and putting his values first would benefit not only himself, but his entire airline and everyone who chose to fly with them, which is true. And he used this type of Genesian thinking to solve the problem. So he looked at what is the fastest way to board a plane to allow for more on-time departures. And by allowing everyone to choose their own seat, he discovered that utilizing this egalitarian process actually increased boarding speed while supporting everyone's ability to fly affordably. Okay? So choosing to stay in the paradox of what is good for the masses will be good for the few benefited his idea in Southwest today continues to be one of the most popular and profitable airlines in the world. So this type of thinking is the practice of actively conceiving and using multiple opposites or antithetical thoughts or constructions simultaneously to solve problems. Traditionally, when we come up against a challenge, obstacle, or problem, our ancestral instinct is to push against it. But that doesn't work today. So our thinking, the Genesian thinking, suggests that rather than finding the one solution, we open ourselves up to multiple possibilities and ways of thinking. It calls us to shift from our limited perspective of the world to take in ideas, perspectives, and possibilities that we had ever or never considered before. And as we dive in, we find that every answer leads to more questions, and that there is really no one right way to look at anything. Instead, we must open ourselves up to hold many ideas and perspectives at once, and truly embrace the paradox mindset that lives within us all. Now, we might say, well, that's easier said than done. However, it comes with practice to stop the black and white thinking and say, well, what if I looked at it this way? Or look at another's perspective. It was Ernest Holmes that answered the riddle of the universe. The riddle of the universe is a paradox. And again, the question is its own answer, for the mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers it. And that's what Jerry read in the story that he shared with us. Well, how can this Genesian thinking, this paradoxical thinking, this mindset support us in deepening our spirituality and growing in science of mind? Well, I think there's three stages that we can kind of take a look at. First of all, we can learn that all the negative conditioned thoughts that we have learned along the way of our early part of our journey, this living journey that we're on, were just opinions, others' opinions of us, not really us. But we used all of this to formulate ideas of who we think we are. You know, the stuff that we learned about ourselves when we were easily influenced by our parents, our teachers, our siblings, generally anyone bigger or what we thought knew better. So first, learn that all of our negative conditioning thoughts are just others' opinions. And secondly, we can just relax and just let all of the stuff that we bought into in our childhood, just let it go and lose all of the stuff within our consciousness that is holding us back, holding us down from advancing and thriving. And thirdly, after we let all that go, after we lose ourselves, we can then recognize how divinely created we are. We can see just how miraculous we are. We can find our divine, beautiful self, our genius self, and embrace the beauty that we are. However, what we must avoid is the confusion which arises from a belief in final revelations. We must just release and let go from the belief that all truth is at last discovered, which it's not, or that someone, person, or someone system of thought has delivered the last word, which they haven't. We must understand that there are no finalities in any science, any philosophy, or any religion. We must remain open at the top. And that's one of the things that Ernest Holmes supports in his teachings, to remain open at the top and be flexible, not rigid, not rigid in our thinking, not black and white thinking, not right or wrong thinking. So we must actually develop good-natured flexibility. And nature demands this. When we look at the wind blowing a tree, if the tree doesn't bend, the tree's going to break. So we are apt to hold our thoughts so static sometimes that it finally becomes a habit, which destroys not only our mental happiness, but also the spiritual influx, our desires moving through us and as us into the world, creating a world that works for everyone. It was Carl Jung that said, the paradox is one of our most valued spiritual possessions. Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. There's a poem that I'm going to share with you, and it was written by Reverend Saphir Rose is her name. She's an ordained minister through the Agape International Spiritual Center that was founded by Reverend Michael Beckwith. He, of course, was a proponent of the teachings of religious science, or Ernest Holmes. And this is what she wrote. Her poem starts out as such. She let go of the fear. She let go of the judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her, and she let go of all the right reasons, wholly and completely. Without hesitation or worry, she let go. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She didn't search the scriptures. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of the planning and all the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write the projected date in her day timer. She made no public announcement and put no ad in the paper. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't do a 5-step spiritual mind treatment. She didn't call the prayer line. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad. It was what it was, and it is just that. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forever. So I invite you to just sit back and listen to the next song and just let go. Let go of your ideas, be open at the top, and know that this is your time. Trust your timing, for you are divine. So we have a song called Trust Your Timing by Fearless Soul. It's a beautiful song. Yeah. Just take a minute and just let that soak in. Just really relish in the delight of who you are and trust in yourself. Know that you are brilliant, you are genius, you are beautiful. Just relax. Be who you are, all of you. So we must embrace ourselves. And we must embrace the inevitable paradoxes of life if we are to truly create a world that works for everyone. And when we talk about creating a world that works for everyone, you're part of that everyone. Don't leave yourself out. Include yourself. Because if not for you, there would be no world. It operates because of you. You're here. You're part of the beauty. And by opening ourselves up to alternative solutions, different ways of seeing things, other people's perspectives and beliefs, ideas, we're on a journey of discovery. We're just not finding our way into the world, but we're finding ways where we can be living in a world where there's a win-win for everyone. To make no one wrong, to make no one better than you, to make yourself no better than anybody else, but to be equal, to be divine. We don't need to strive for a win-win. We just need to be, to relish, to be open at the top. And we can look at multiple ways of seeing life, the opposites, the contradictory ideas, all being true at the same time. Then we can find the possibilities. And we could actually create a world that is working for everyone and realize that it already is working for everyone. We can imagine the possibilities of thriving instead of surviving. So we might want to just embrace Jansean thinking to begin to solve problems of our world and find ways to create a world that works for all people, not just a small group, not just us or them, but all of us together. So I invite you to take a look at how you can be open at the top. We're going to go ahead and take this into prayer. Again, I invite you to just let go and listen with an open heart. Simply sit back and receive all of the good that the universe wants to pour into you, out to you, and as you. Knowing that there is only one divine source that sources all beings, all things, all that is animate and inanimate. Knowing that there is only one. And in knowing this, I speak my word, for there is power in the word. the words that we choose to release and let go out of the mouth into the universe. I speak my word. I see, I feel, and I know that all beings are operating with the best intentions, and that all desires of the heart are being met with ease and with grace. That humanity is thriving and growing in the recognition of the one great divine source, and realizes that all situations, conditions, and manifested reality is working to create a world that works for everyone. A world of peace, a world of beauty, giving and receiving miracles. Miracles that have the transformative power to bring more and more good into this thing we call living. And knowing that this is so, knowing that this is true, I give thanks. I give thanks for knowing this and seeing this and feeling it. And if you are in agreement with me, please let us declare and release the words to the law, knowing it is done now. And together we say, and so it is. I believe we have some announcements.
Let's just give Reverend Teresa another hand. It's a very unique subject she had today, paradoxes. So it's John, as artist is picking up the offering. I'll go over the rest of the things that are happening this week. The Keys to Wisdom is going to pick up again on this coming Thursday, resumes October 5th. And of course, we always have our podcast out there for your listening pleasure. So please just go out there and take a listen for them. And we want to offer condolences to our own John Thomas. His daughter Vicki Thomas passed away, and her service is going to be at Gaines on Lee Road, and I think that's in Maple Heights. Tuesday, 10/3 at 10 o'clock a.m. So please, if you would, just help John to deal with his loss. And now we'll do the benediction. If you would, get comfortable one more time and just put your feet flat on the floor. And we just give thanks for this time that we've had together. We give thanks for the wonderful, wonderful service that was brought to us by Reverend Teresa. We give thanks for this wonderful building and all of the people that have made it to us. And we just know that we're blessed as we go on our way, as we go on our different ways. We give thanks. And if you're in agreement with me, please say with me, and so it is, and so we let it be. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Please send out your blessing to Reverend June and Reverend Leora. Reverend June is visiting in California, and I understand they had a little bit of an auto accident out there. They are doing fine, but the other person, I guess they're doing okay too, because they walked away from it. The car and Reverend Leora's car is being repaired right now, so it was a little fender bender out there in California. I guess they're used to them. But anyway, thank you. This concludes today's service.